Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Well, I guess I should say I'm glad to be back on air. Even though I've been trapped in this house for a good while. Not gonna lie, I tried everything I could. Try to open doors to whatever exit I can find. But these rooms I keep getting myself into only lead me back to the hallway I'm in. Or that I was. And then a new one. And so on and so forth. It feels like a maze in here, if I'm being honest. One room looks like an entire outdoor thing. A forest, maybe. A whole foggy parking lot. And other cases, it's either a library or just a plain old room. So yeah, I'm a little bit on my wit's end. But hey, at least something like this will keep me occupied for the time being. So anyway, with that being said, I'm gonna try something different. I'm probably gonna still put on like a little bit of a gaming clip here and there, but I think I'm gonna try a little bit of a spooky little story. Cause why not, right? Like I said, I'm at my wit's end. Why not make it a little more intense by reading some scary stories in the middle of the night or day? I don't know. The windows show that it's nighttime. But I don't know, for you it might be day, might be night, who knows. But yeah. So anyway, let's get started on this. The year is 1999. That sentence brings me back to my senior year kindergarten class when I was 5 years old, where we used to read out loud the dates on the blackboard every single day. The year 1999 exists as a stain in my mind. However, as a memory that will not go away no matter how I try to forget it. 1999 marked the year I lost my first tooth, my first time on a plane, and unfortunately, the early loss of my childhood innocence. That one memory that refuses to be wiped. It all started with that new or old TV. At the time, Pokemon was the latest fad to hit the school. Pokemon cards, games, stickers, and the most popular, the TV show. So of course, every time I come home from school, I would stay glued to the TV until Pokemon came on at 5. The only problem was that my dad watches the news at 5:30 in the afternoon. And Pokemon episodes were back to back, which meant I had to miss an episode every day. Something I whined on and on about. And my dad got tired of hearing me complain every day. That must be why he went and bought another TV. My dad put the TV he bought in my room. Unfortunately, it was just an old, small boob tube, with rabbit ears even. It also only had 20 channels available, not including the channel Pokemon was on. I recall I didn't care, though. I was just thrilled I had my own TV in my room. After surfing through the channels, I came to the conclusion that the only channel 2, TVO Kids, was worth watching, so I watched that for a while. It wasn't for another few months until I discovered Channel 21. One day in April, I was flipping through the channels trying to see if Pokemon was on. I pressed the channel 21 into the remote, hoping there were more channels, and to my delight there was. My dad was surprised too, but he let me watch it because it seemed to have kids programs on it. The channel was called Caledon Local 21, and later I found out it was indeed broadcasted from the town of Caledon, Ontario, a town very close to my city. The shows I saw on Caledon Local 21 looked poorly made, and I never understood what was going on in them half the time. However, as I grew up, every time I thought of the channel, I realized more and more how messed up the shows were. And I had to ask myself, what the fuck was I watching? The following is a list of shows and episodes I remember seeing on Caledon Local 21. How I remember such detail even disturbs me. But I guess things like this stands out in your mind for a while. The channel only ran a few shows, probably because it was only operational between 4 p.m. and 9 in the night. April 1999. Mr. Bear Cellar. Episodes 12. Very sketchy name if you were to look at it nowadays. The show featured a guy wearing a bear mascot costume who would get a new visitor into his cellar every day. It was always a kid. The show was filmed with a camcorder, and not a very good one either. The police asked me a lot of questions about this show. This episode started with Mr. Bear sitting at a table playing checkers by himself. He sat there playing for a bit until there was a knock on the door. The camera was then looking up at the stairs at the door where there was another knock. Mr. Bear climbed the stairs and opened the door to reveal two young children. One was a boy about my age, and the other was a girl who looked about 8. Mr. Bear danced in delight and then started talking to the kids. I couldn't hear any of them at well. I remember Mr. Bear then led the kids into the cellar, which was quite dark, only lit by a small oil lamp on the table. I can't really remember that much more, except him singing a song which I couldn't hear too well either, probably because the large bear mask. The episode ended with them playing hide and seek, which with the kids hiding in the closet and Mr. Bear counting. May 1999. Soups and Spoons. I don't think this was even a show. I think it was more of a special movie thing. All I know is I stopped watching Caledon Local 21 for a while because I thought the show was too stupid. Especially since Pokemon Now came on at 4:30 and 5. I don't remember much of this, but it showed a can of soup and a spoon, both attached to strings, swinging back and forth, as if someone was holding them and dangling them in front of the camera. Interesting enough, the show was shot in a basement, which looked just like the one used in Mr. Bear's cellar. Like I said, I can't remember much. The only thing I can remember clearly was the end. The entire thing was only half an hour and just included stuff I found stupid, such as the spoon chasing the soup or around trying to eat it. The ending showed a table and about 7 kids sitting around it, each with a bowl of soup in front of them. They were even sitting and looking at the camera, but with confused, almost frightened faces. The cameraman then held the can of soup in front of the kids, said, "Spoons ready?" And then it just stopped. July 1999. It was summer, and I hadn't watched Channel 21 for a while. Until one day when I slept over at my friend's house, and I decided to check it out. My friend had gotten a TV in his room for his 6th birthday, so we stayed up very late for us. It was 9:30 was the very latest, and watched TV. That's when I remembered Channel 21 and brought it up to my friend. He decided to see what it was on. And to our surprise, it was... They must have changed the broadcasting time. Mr. Bear Cellar, episode 23. The episode was entertaining for my friend and me, mainly because it had swearing. However, now when I think of this episode, I realize something was definitely wrong when it was filmed. The bear started with the camera on its side while it was facing Mr. Bear, who was walking upstairs to the cellar door. The camera then blacked out for about a second before fading in, back upright and facing Mr. Bear. There was also another kid talking to him, but this kid looked about 11 or 12. He was talking to Mr. Bear for a while, but I couldn't hear it well, again with the crappy camcorder. Until the kid started raising his voice. The kid was saying how it was late and his sister had to go home. You could also hear more voices in the background. I remember Mr. Bear clearly saying, "Get the fuck out. You're not invited." With a deep voice muffled by the bear mask. I remember my friend and I looking at each other laughing at the mention of the forbidden F word. But the episode got weirder. The kid began climbing the stairs before turning around and saying how he was going to call the police. The bear began running towards him, and the kid started screaming and running as well. The camera then cut out, and that was when the episode ended. The channel then turned to static shortly after. August 1999. I didn't want to watch Channel 21 after that. In August, I grew more curious to see Mr. Bear's cellar for some reason, though. The last episode I saw of Mr. Bear was weird and had swearing, which also made me think the show was meant for teenagers. Nonetheless, I flipped onto Channel 21 when my dad was busy. Mr. Bear's cellar, episode 28. Apparently, this episode had been playing the entire month of August. It was studied a lot by the police. The entire episode was just Mr. Bear sitting in a chair, talking to the audience. "Hello, kids. Do you want to visit my cellar? If you do, please write me a letter at this address." The screen then switched to a white screen with multicolored letters reading the address. That was what remained for the rest of the episode. This repeated for 5 hours every day until September came. And guess what? I actually did. I sent Mr. Bear, or that sick bastard who betrayed him, a letter. I did it out of curiosity mostly. My dad was okay with it, because he thought it was just a legit kid show. But then again, he never saw any of what was on Channel 21. So I wrote a letter using my best writing possible. I think I just said how I wanted to meet Mr. Bear, so my dad sent the letter to the address Mr. Bear said on the show. It stayed on all day anyway, for some reason. It took about a week to get a response, which I was surprised it did. I still had the letter I received on August 15, 1999. The letter read, "Dear Elliot, thank you ever so much for your letter. I would love to have you in my cellar. We play games, watch movies, and go fire camping in the middle of the woods. Come to my house at..." The police cut this address out. "Caledon, Ontario, Canada. I look very forward to having fun with you. Love, Mr. Bear." I cannot believe my dad never found this sketchy, because he actually took me to the house, and then when the police became involved, those endless questions, those pictures of terrified kids, the woods, that brings me back to why I'm writing this blog. That psycho and his friends did some fucked up shit back then. And now it seems he's trying to get into contact with me again. The entire police thing is coming back. That has brought 1999 back to me over a decade later. It is happening again. November 14, 2009. People have been emailing me again, asking what exactly happened in 1999. I will get to that. Those weird TV shows I was watching apparently were meant to attract kids to Mr. Bear's house. What Mr. Bear did shocked the entire town. My dad actually drove me to Caledon along with the address Mr. Bear left on the letter. The house was actually in the outskirts of the town and the open farmland. I still remember that house. It looked like an older farmhouse that looked to have a built in early 1900s. The windows were all boarded up and the house looked in a state of disrepair. As we walked up to the house, I remember my dad checking the address over and over and over again and looking at the house in disbelief. Then the doors opened. I expected Mr. Barrow to be at the door, but I was surprised to see a police officer emerge from the creaking doorway. The officer began talking to my dad while I quickly asked if that was Mr. Bear's house. The officer's face cringed slightly and he muttered, "Oh God," or something like that. He started talking quietly to my dad so I couldn't hear, although my dad told me to go to the car anyway. And then we just went home. My dad was quiet the whole way home. I felt something strange had happened. My dad never told me what happened for a while. I forgot about it anyway, too. Channel 21 no longer came on. And when I asked about it to my dad, he wouldn't acknowledge its existence. I think it was when I was 13 where I learned the truth. I remember Channel 21 one day and asked my dad about it. I guess he finally decided I should hear the truth. Caledon Local 21 was a local TV channel that ran from October 1997 to August 1999 in the Peel region of Ontario. The entire channel was made from a house in Caledon, that one I visited, and ran by a man who was not really known by anyone in town. The channel was only available to older TVs because the signal was one only picked up by rabbit ears, weaker frequencies to be more elegant. The man created all the shows on the channel, all of it, which were kid shows. He was Mr. Bear, he was the mysterious cameraman. The real reason he created the channel was more disturbing than what was originally thought. As you might have already guessed, he kidnapped kids and held them in his cellar. But while most people thought he was a serial child molester, he really wanted to use the kids for other purposes. The day I arrived, the man had fled his house that night before the police went into their investigation. I wasn't the only one who was watching. December 2, 2009. Sorry for not answering any questions for so long. I haven't accessed my email account for some time. Anyway, let me finally set things straight about what I know. Back in October, I visited the house previously owned by the man who ran Caledon Local 21. Two women lived there, operating a daycare business. Ironic. Now, to answer the questions you guys emailed me. Who else watched Caledon Local 21? I know other people who watched it for sure, including those kids who wound up at Mr. Bear's house. After some Google searches, I found a few people on the NeoSeeker forums who were discussing the shows from Caledon Local 21. They talked about the two shows I watched, but also another two shows I had never seen before. A user named I Am Real Life seemed to know all the shows that were broadcasted on Channel 21. Here are the two I never heard of. The Fallen Angel of Life. I Am Real Life described it as a fairly boring show about a guy rambling on in front of the camera about how we must please Satan and appease him before it's too late. Pain with the Soul. I Am Real Life and another user called Siggy92 were discussed this show. They described it as Blair Witch like, as it consisted of the cameraman wandering around the forest at night, doing nothing particularly interesting. I'll go looking for the conversation and see if I can get the link. Where is Mr. Bear, or the guy who wore the costume? If I did know, I would have said earlier. I have no idea where this guy is, or if he's dead or alive. Hopefully dead. When I see my dad's friend, next time I'll ask him about this. Maybe I can get a more definitive answer. What did Mr. Bear do to the children? This is by far the most common question I've been asked. I found this out in October as well, via my dad's friend, who is a retired Caledon regional officer. Apparently, the man playing Mr. Bear took the kids out in the house and into the forest nearby. What he did there, police are not exactly sure how it happened, but 16 charred bodies of children between the ages of 4 to 13 were found in a 15 by 15-foot ditch deep within the forest. My dad did not want to go into exact details, but seeing him next Thursday anyway, so maybe I can extort more information from him then. That's all I have for now. Thanks for keeping an interest in my blog. I will try to gather as much information as I can for the next post. I've actually been getting pretty interested in this myself. It should be right to know what the hell happened. January 14, 2010. I'm sorry I haven't posted anything for a while. I kind of lost interest in this blog since I hit, a standstill while looking for more information about the identity of the owner of Caledon Local 21. However, a few weeks ago, I struck gold. I found some answers, surprisingly from the father of a kid I used to babysit. He lives just across my street. And I used to look after his kid when we were younger. He currently doesn't have a job either. He used to live near the woods outside Caledon and witnessed the owner's activities in the woods. His name is Anthony Polo. When he lived in a small bungalow outside the woods, he would often venture to smoke a joint of marijuana or two before returning to his work as a wood craftsman. Polo described that sometimes he would hear voices of children coming from deeper within the woods, as well as a glowing light off the distance. Polo told me these events started in late 1997. No, this is around the time Caledon Local 21 began airing. He apparently became annoyed by this happening every once in a while and actually went to investigate. Polo then described what the whole scene looked like when he got there. There was a group of kids, he said, about 13 to 17 and ages 5 to 12, around a large fire pit with a burning fire. With them was a single adult. Polo talked to the man, nothing unusual, a kept appearance of a cracked addict, as well as his consistent twitching, and asked what he was doing out in the forest with children. The man said they were all in a camping trip, believe it or not. Something they did frequently. Polo not suspecting anything. Caledon has one of the lowest crime rates in Canada, simply left it at that, and that told them to be quieter. Polo then paused for a while before telling me that they never became quieter. In fact, sometimes he heard loud chanting from the children in an unknown language. He didn't bother meeting with the man again, as he was moving away. I told Polo that the man was probably the owner of Caledon Local 21, but he doubted it, as he heard the man was moving to Pickering by several other residents near the area. Here's what I know now. The man would take kids into the woods regularly for quote-unquote camping. The fire pit Polo described may be the hole the bodies of the children were found. The children Polo saw were probably the ones found dead. The man moved to a city called Pickering, a smaller city east of Toronto. I will discuss this with my dad's friend, the ex cop, and see if this matches anything the police knew about the man. I also want to see if he has any other knowledge of what aired on Calden Local 21. February 10th, 2010. Good news, guys. I talked to my dad's friend and he disclosed a lot of information for me. First, I asked if the police had any information on the man who ran Calden Local 21. He replied that they have only had the same leads for years and never found a suspect. However, the Peel Regional Police do have some of the tapes found in the house Calden Local 21 was broadcast from. He took me over so I could watch a few. I guess I haven't said much about him yet. My dad's friend's name is Mitchell Wilson, a pretty nice guy. He seems to understand my thirst for knowledge of what happened during the late 90s. In that house, he feels it was wrong that my dad went so long without telling me much. He took me to Davis Road Police Station. If you don't know, it's the largest station in Caledon and one of the largest within the Peel region itself. Each of the main stations around Peel have some of the tapes. I was able to watch all the footage that the David Road stations has. Unfortunately, I wasn't allowed to take any tapes home for, well, obvious reasons. Pain with the Soul, Episode 10, Garbage Thrown Away. Pain with the Soul was one of the shows that I'm Real Life and Siggy discussed on Neoseeker. I told the police about this and they informed me that 12 episodes of the show were made and broadcast between December 5 of 1997 and January 8th of 1998. Exactly as I'm Real Life and Siggy described, the episode opened up with the cameraman wandering around in the forest. It appeared to be during the evening, as it seemed the sun was setting. The cameraman walked along a path until he got to an area where there was a lot of garbage lying in the leaves. The cameraman looked around and with various wrappers, bottles, bags, and boxes, make sure each item got a few seconds of screen time. The camera then focused on a single area before the man spoke. I recall he spoke in a very timid, quiet voice, and I swear I've heard it somewhere else before, like on another Caledon Local 21 show. I could barely hear what he was saying, but he mainly talked about how humans are garbage, or something that had to do with saving ourselves by cleaning up the garbage, aka us. It actually sounded really stupid, but still a feeling of dread came over me. I mean, that forest was possibly where those bodies were found, right? Mr. Bear Cellar, episode 25. When the police administrator brought this tape in, I actually said, "Oh, shit," and chuckled a bit out loud. Of course, I got stares from staff, but Wilson explained to them about my little experience with Mr. Bear and how I still kept that letter he sent me. Like the previous episodes, this one's included a guy wearing a bear mascot costume. The episode began with Mr. Bear waddling over to his cellar door with a bottle of orange juice in his paws. On the ground were 16 shots glasses as well as a small bottle that contained a unknown liquid. Mr. Bear poured an equal amount of garbage juice into each glass before opening the smaller bottles and depositing one drop of into the glasses. Well, Mr. Bear then went off camera. There were some minor sounds such as shuffling, and then Mr. Bear emerged from behind the camera's location. Following him were 16 children. Some looked as young as 4, while others looked like they were practically teenagers. As the children entered the Following him were 16 children. Some looked as young as 4, while others looked like they were practically teenagers. As children entered, the administration commented that this is the only episode that showed all 16 victims. The kids all looked rather content, except for the ones who had visible bruises on his face. And unlike other kids, he had a more fearful expression. He also looked about 11, between 12? Yeah, 11 or 12, which caused me to recognize him. He was the kid who had asked about his sister and subsequently met an unknown fate at the end of episode 23. That one episode I watched during July 1999. When I told the administrator this, he confirmed it was the same kid. He was also featured in episode 24, an episode that only aired once in around like 3 in the afternoon in July 1999. The police still have not found the tape. Mr. Bear then broke into song, singing about citrus fruits and good vitamin C was for you. I could barely hear the lyrics as they were muffled by the fucking bear mask. The kids all drank their juice, the one from episode 23 doing it rather reluctantly, and the episode ended. After viewing the tapes in possession of David Road Police Station, I'm satisfied, but only temporarily. I still want to know the full story. The police just kept giving me the same crap about the creator of Caledon Local 21 being a fetishist pedophile as well as an apparent cultist. I will sign off for now, get into universities first, and get information later. Hopefully I'll get back to this blog as soon as possible. May 8, 2010. Last month, I finally got my G2 license. In Ontario, Canada, this allows you to drive in a car by yourself as well as some passengers after 6 months. I, of course, took advantage of this and drove into Caledon for a little Sunday drive. Since I haven't updated this blog in a while, I figured I might as well visit the house where the infamous channel of my childhood was located. The house looked different than what I last saw it. In October, the place was no longer used as a daycare and just sat there abandoned. However, it did have a for sale sign showing that someone still owned it, wanting to get rid of it though. The abandoned house drew fuzzy memories from my mind, mainly of that day my dad took me to visit Mr. Bear. A feeling of dread came upon me. What happened to the children while they were living in that house? I walked up to the steps of the front door and peered through the window. Inside, I could see nearly empty hallway with a few boxes at the end. At the end of the hallway to the right was an open doorway, presumably leading to the kitchen. To the left were 2 doors, both apparently leading to the rooms visible through the windows outside. I wondered where the cellar entrance was located and whether it had been sealed up or something. I walked around to the back of the house and found my answer. 2 wooden doors lying at the utmost flat angle were padlocked shut. This had to lead to the cellar. Not wanting to hang around, you cannot imagine what was going through my mind at the time. I departed. Behind the house, the empty field continued on it until I reached a dense forest that lined to the horizon. I wondered if that forest was where the bodies of children were found. I thought to myself, fuck it, and proceed to walk across the field behind the house into the forest. The forest was oddly quiet, save for the few periodic sounds of a woodpecker drilling to the distant tree. I cautiously made my way deeper into the woods, not really caring about the fact that I had no idea where I was going. I don't know how to explain it, but it felt like there was something I had to find. I came to a thinner part of the woods and a few small houses in the distance. Poe's house crossed my mind, and I wondered if one of those homes had belonged to him at one point. I neared a small clearing in which I could see three adequately sized logs gathered around a black, charred area, showing a small fire had been lit there recently. Hey, get the fuck out of my house! Those words nearly gave me a heart attack. I turned to my left and saw two dark clothed people running towards me. My initial thought was to run, however, as they came closer, I saw they were really just kids. In their early teens, possibly 13 or 14, maybe even 12. As they approached me, they realized my size as well. I'm 6'1", while they could have been no bigger than 5'8". One might have been 5'7". We said, "Get the fuck out." The larger one, who was wearing a Slipknot shirt, said half-heartedly. I stood my ground and shrugged. The shorter one, who was wearing a Metallica shirt, swung around a butterfly knife. Funny, isn't it? And held it to my direction. "No, you wouldn't want to," I said in a deep, serious tone, trying to sound as badass as possible. I pulled out my cell phone. The two kids withdrew, the one in Metallica shirt putting away the knife. "Look, dude, we don't like people in our fort, alright? So can you just go?" The one in the Slipknot shirt said, obviously intimidated. I had no business in the forest anyway, so I uttered a simple "fine" and turned before I realized I had a great opportunity. Did either of you hear of a guy who murdered a bunch of kids in these woods about 13 years ago? I asked the kids. The two looked at each other in confusion before the one in a Metallica shirt just answered, "Yeah, everyone knows about that guy." He said to me as if I were stupid. The kid in the Slipknot shirt continued, "He still lives around here in the storm drain. My big brother saw him in a bear costume once, wandering around the forest that night." My instincts told me this was probably a lie, and the owner of Caledon Local 21 is probably long gone, only existing as a folktale is in a smaller, isolated community. However, as a human, the thought of the mysterious unknown sparks interest him within. "And where is the storm drain?" I asked. Just out of curiosity, I don't really believe the kid's story. The kid in the Metallica shirt stared at me for a few moments, his eyes seemingly full of annoyance, yet curiosity for me. "You're not from around here, are you? Why did you even come here?" Now, I do admit I was slightly startled by the nature of his question. However, I figured I might as well explain why I was there, just in case people mistook my intentions. I told the kids about my experience with the man in Caledon Local 21, and that I had to come to maybe seek out some sort of closure, although even I wasn't exactly sure. The kids seemed familiar with the channel as they smiled and looked at each other when I mentioned it. They also became more understanding and gave me a detailed description on how to get to the storm drain. Shortly after, I decided to turn around the way I came and headed back to the house, leaving the kids to their fort. But now you're probably wondering why I left out such detail about what the kids told me just now. It is because I'm choosing to conclude what I have gathered now. Here's what the kids told me in detail. The storm drain lies ahead of the kids' fort, same direction I was heading. The drain ends at a smaller river where access water is drained out. Near here is a small playground. The kids told me people rarely use it. The man supposedly lives in a large pipe that rainwater drains out of. People have seen him, although always either wearing a bear mask or the mask in a full-body bear costume. Note, I do not believe this is true and simply a myth made by the residents of Caledon. The story does not seem plausible in any way. Why did no one call the police? Didn't this guy look suspicious? And other questions like these leave the story invalid. I may visit the storm drain, not because I believe the story, but because I want an excuse to visit Caledon again, so this blog doesn't die with no more tapes to watch. I don't know what to talk about anymore. Thanks for continuing to support me and my blog. I know many are looking towards more information about what happened in Caledon during the year 1999, and I will do my best to continue my research into the topic. Elliot out. October 7th, 2010. Wow, nearly 5 months since I last updated. I'm guessing everyone pretty much thinks I'm dead, right? Thankfully, I'm not. But in all seriousness, I believe I have been busy these past few months. But in all my seriousness, I believe I really have been busy these past few months in a blog about something that could have killed me as a kid. A little low on my current priorities list. As of now, I am living in Waterloo, Ontario, attending the University of Waterloo for computer engineering. Yeah, I'm an ear. As you can imagine, engineering is no walk in the park, so obviously I nearly forgot about this blog. But as you can see now, I'm back. I remember to visit the storm drain the kids from Caledon Forest told me about. It was at a clearing between the woods area nearby a marsh. Unfortunately, I found absolutely nothing, save for a turtle that retreated into its built-in home when it saw me. I snapped some pics of the pipe, which I posted as well. Also, let me tell you, it was not a storm drain like they said it was. What I saw was a simple pipe, possibly to channel the excess water from the marsh. When I returned to Caledon, however, I simply kept putting off uploading anything until I forgot all about my blog. It just didn't seem important anymore. Please forgive me. It wasn't until only recently that I'm now interested in the case again. On September 10th, I received a email from this email address, returntheb@hotmail.com. Funny, am I right? Well, it gets better. I'm going to copy and paste the exact email this guy sent me. Dear Elliot, my dear, dear boy, you see, this story may or may not be true, but it could happen. There are many slots for the airtime. If you have money, you can have a public access TV channel. Some public access channels share airtime like EWTN, religious channel based out of Michigan, that shows Catholic-based programming, but during off-air hours have independent shows or just blue screen. Cable networks have empty channels available for rent space, so the scenario of a pedo renting a channel on basic TV is not far-fetched at all. However, public access TV is widely reviewed and can be terminated at any time. These are the rules for the United States, not for Canada, where this story took place. So if this happened in the US, the pedo would be tracked and arrested immediately. Yes, this story could happen, but it is unlikely. 100 fuzzy hugs, Mr. Bear. Now, obviously, this letter is fake and sounds almost corrupted, but still, I would like to thank whoever sent it. Though they could have used some English lessons. Just reading this letter creeped me out, but because of it, I am now full of this new interest to continue my blog. I guess it's just funny trying to pursue the mysterious. I've always questioned. Now my roommate knows about all this, and he thought the letter was real and actually seemed more scared than I was for a sec. But then I shrugged it off. So he did too. I mean, what are the chances of this being real? How would Mr. Bear know all about public access TV and about when I went to Caledon on those occasions? More or less know my email or still be interested in the seller? I'm going to send a reply to return the bee. Wow, just looking at the email address, you can tell someone wanted to freak me out. It didn't really work though. Although, whoever you are, thank you for sparking my interest back into the full matter. Maybe I can find out more about what happened to Mr. Bear. Hopefully, because although I don't buy that email, a part of me still feels anxious. Thank you to all those who are still following me and have become avid fans. You're also why I'm choosing to continue this. Thanks, guys. November 7th, 2010. Wow, I can't believe this blog hasn't been deleted yet. I haven't posted anything for so long. I have my reasons and I'd rather not discuss them yet. It has been a rather traumatic year for me. Some of you were right. I should have gone back trying to relive my mysteries or my childhood, but I couldn't resist. It has been over a year since my last post, and a lot has happened. Let's recap. Where I'm right now with regards to the whole Mr. Bear incident. Return to B Hotmail is no longer in use. I tried replying to it, but no reply. I tried again a while back, still no response. I actually moved to Ottawa, capital of Canada, for those who don't know, for university. So I haven't been back to Caledon or back home in the Peel region for a while. I had my reasons for leaving, as you could guess why. I've had to make a new email account because people kept prank mailing me pretending to be Mr. Bear. Thanks a lot, guys. Not. Why I have ventured back to this blog, Mitchell Wilson, remember, my dad's ex-cop friend. So he gave me a phone call on October 23rd about a tape that was found in a branch of Brampton Public Library. Brampton is my hometown in case you haven't picked up on that. He claims he hasn't allowed to discuss the contents of the tape with me as it's still in evidence, but he asked me to come check it out when I return home. The tape got some gears grinding again because we all know what was on the last tapes I saw. I can only imagine what could be on it. I'm guessing it's just something to do with, Caledon Local 21. I guess I just wanted to say I'm continuing this blog and thank you for everyone who still follows it. I don't know when my next entry will be, but when I see the tape, I'll write what I find. I don't know what to expect, but the idea of seeing another tape has gotten me interested in this whole mystery all over again. Elliot. January 21, 2011. It has been a long year for me. University has been giving me the usual sleepless nights, especially since I transferred to Ottawa, which is the place to party. Sarcasm. But now I'm back home with my dad in Brampton, the town I grew up in. I got home on the 19th of December and have been visiting with friends and family, or at least that's what I would rather have done. Now the festive holiday cheer that I usually have at this time of the month is absent. To answer the 100 of emails and comments I got, yes, I did see the tapes that my dad's friend Mitchell Wilson promised to show me. These tapes, however, act as a curse. I want to know more, yet I want to forget everything. I couldn't help it. I needed to see those tapes, not only for myself, but for all you guys who are just as intrigued as I am by that ominous man from my past. However, after viewing those tapes, I feel that pit of dread deep inside me once more. That feeling where I know that all these kids in those videos are dread. that I could have been one of those kids, and that humanity is a dark, dark place. If you haven't skipped this paragraph for the juicier details below, thank you for listening to my rambling. On January 1st, I called Mitchell Wilson and asked if there was a time where I could come by and view the tapes. Things were pretty slow at the time station because of the snowstorm, so he said I could come down any time that day. The tapes were located at the branch not too far from me, so I braved the slushy roads and terrible Prampton drivers and made my way to the Peel Regional Police Station, located at the Bramilia City Center. I met Wilson at the front desk, and he had led me to the second floor into a small office. He instructed me to have a seat, wait while he went to go and get the tapes. Before leaving the office, he turned to me and said, "I know you're curious, but are you sure you want to do this?" Of course I did, or at least I thought so. Besides, Wilson's friend had pulled a lot of strings to get me this, and I didn't want to waste the opportunity. This particular station had 2 tapes on hand. I only was able to watch a few minutes of footage. However, because the second tape was apparently too damaged to be played on a VCR, Mr. Bear Cellar, episode 30. Mr. Bear never ceases to disturb me, especially after what almost happened when I was younger. This episode took place outside the forest at dusk, making it slightly harder to see, especially considering the quality of the film, a trademark of anything from Caledonia Local 21. The episode started with the camera being held in the paws, quote unquote, of Mr. Bear, aiming it at himself. The bear mask, it looked more sinister in the shadows of the trees. The unmistakable muffled voice spoke up. "Hello, children. Today I will be doing a wonderful thing for my friends. I will be delivering them to a faraway land where they will surely be happy." Mr. Bear turned the cameras around to show an ATV with attached trailer. But what stood out the most was the trailer contained 7 motionless children lying side by side. This here is the first load, but more will be on their way soon. Mr. Bear turned around and pointed at the camera at a large burlap tarp spread on the ground. He picked the tarp up, revealing the large hole that must have been at least 12 feet deep and maybe about 15 feet wide. The rest of the episode consisted of Mr. Bear taking each kid and dropping them into the hole. I asked Wilson if they were dead, at which point he shook his head and replied, "Not yet." Soon, all the kids were in this pit. Some were in awkward positions due to being tossed in, but they remained unconscious. The victim C will surely help these children on a great journey that awaits them. Mr. Bear mentioned as he panned the camera towards the multiple bottles of gasoline. Besides a bush, the camera zoomed in to the bottles as Mr. Bear hummed before episode ended. It also revealed to me that these were the 7 of the 16 victims found burnt to a crisp. The gasoline is what the man playing Mr. Bear used to light them up on a fire. A pit full of burning children. Who the fuck would do that? That feeling of dread found me once again when I realized I could have been one of those kids. Wilson then explained to me that he had previously lied. The other tapes confiscated by the Burnley Police Branch did indeed work and contained the filming of the actual burning. However, he felt that I wouldn't be able to handle it, the disturbing graphic nature of the episodes. And you know what?
Maybe I can't. I don't even want to see it. I'm satisfied for now, but I just need to have some time to get myself together. The thing is, the man who ran Catadin Local 21 is still out there. More to come soon, Elliot. Once upon a time, there lived a boy named Elliot. Elliot was a clever, clever boy who loved playing with his friends. One day he watched a lovely television show about a bear and his children friends. The children loved helping each other as good as children should. But they also loved the bear. The bear loved the children, since the children were so good at helping him and the fallen angel. The children and the bear wanted to play together forever with the help of their angel friend. But the fallen angel needed even more help. So the children had to give the ultimate sacrifice. Because that's what friends do, Elliot. They help each other, Elliot. Help us, Elliot. Burn with us, Elliot. Elliot, I want you, Elliot. He wants you, Elliot. Come back to my cellar. Pretty please, with sugar and icing on top. Mr. B. April 5th, 2011. I wanted to update more, I truly did. However, certain circumstances had turned me off on the whole Camden Local 21 thing. I've seen then had hundreds of emails about my blog and was even in contact with a magazine about my story, but now in the time to come clean to everyone where I have been for an entire year. The story of Pandora's Box is true, and I opened it. I opened it with what I watched and second tape in the possession of the Brimley Police Branch. The other subject I'd like to address to the number of joke/fake emails I've been getting from people claiming to be Mr. Bear. Let's start with the second tape, as that is what traumatized me into stopping my search temporarily. After a few weeks of playing silent, I decided to ask Mitchell Wilson if I could view the infamous second tape he had talked about. I don't know why, I just felt that viewing the tape could give me some closure. Wilson was obviously reluctant to show me, but I was persistent. He gave me an offer. If I was still interested by the time I turned 20, he would show me the tape, not being able to do much else. I just played the waiting game by the time my 20th birthday rolled. I was definitely still interested in viewing the tape. I gave Wilson a call, during which he admitted that he had hoped I would forget about. Ask him again, and I was not taking no for an answer. You really don't need to see this, he kept telling me, but I did need to see it. I had at this point, sure enough. He invited me to Brimley Branch on one Monday afternoon. Having watched every Saw film and a video of Animal Slaughterhouse in my ethics class, I was sure I was able to handle whatever the tape could throw at me. How naive I was. Mr. Bear's Cellar, episode 31. When Wilson went to collect the tape from evidence, the officer in charge of the evidence room shook his head at me, his face saying, "What are you doing?" Wilson explained that this tape included the last known episode of Mr. Bear's Cellar. I rightfully assumed that I would be seeing the fate of the children and began to see, I began to feel a sense of dread. The episode opened inside a forest, the usual one from the previous episodes. The fact took me a while to realize because it was at night. The trees and leaves just looked like shapes dancing around the darkness. A faint glow of light was presented the right side of the screen. There wasn't any apparent audio. It appeared to be a windy night, yet the trees weren't making a noise. Slowly, the camera began to pan towards the glow, revealing smoke rising from the hole with the trip of flames peeking over the top. Wilson paused at this point. Are you sure you want to see this? He asked me. I insisted on it, even though a voice in my head was telling me not to. This video continued. The cameraman moved towards the hole, showing a pit of fire. This was the hole that I had seen in the previous episode. Only this time it was filled with shapes. I could see shapes moving around, fluttering, flailing, some motionless. I saw perfectly well what they were. The cameraman began to adjust the light, and burning flash, red, black, and blur of surreal movement and colors. I wish I could forget what I saw, but you can't forget a scene like this. This was not a horror movie. This was reality. Human beings were being killed in a horrifying way, a fate that I could have potentially met. This video suddenly cut down to dawn. The camera now positioned further away from the hole the fires was at. However, there was still smoke rising up. A figure was up ahead. I recognized it right away. The Mr. Bear suit was laid on the ground, empty. It looked just as unnerving. The suit was laid out in the shapes of a cross. The cameraman did a lap around the suit, treating it like a treasured artifact. Placed at the head of the suit was a sign in blood red letters. INRI was printed. The cameraman moved back to the end of the suit, zooming to the bear's face. The episode finally ended. I was speechless. It was like a dream. You can find a lot of horrible things on the internet, but I had never seen anything like this. Wilson asked if I was okay, and I replied with a shaky yes. I assured him as we left that I was fine, that the video gave me some closure over the whole incident. He didn't seem too confident in me, but he left it at that. He was right though. I had nightmares for weeks. I gave up. I didn't care about the whole thing anymore. A sick man burned a bunch of kids alive, attracting them to a fake kids TV channel. I could have I could have been one of his victims, yet I'm still here. I suppose I should be grateful, but I feel guilty. I'm still here, but only by pure luck. 10 months later, I'm back, but now I need to address something else. My email has been flooded with messages. Some people ask for more details. Some ask if I can upload the tapes. And some people ask and email me claiming to be Mr. Bear. First, I cannot get the tapes uploaded as they're, well, one, in police possession as evidence, and two, I have no idea how to transfer VHS onto a computer. As for people pretending to be Mr. Bear, you're not fooling me. When you have dozens of people pretending to be the same person, it doesn't work. I've seen the fake Howlin' Local 21 YouTube channel, which is cute, but still not real. Even more annoying is the fact that someone hacked my account just to put up some demented poem about me in his blog. I'll leave it in this entry above this one. Just to show you guys, I contacted my webmaster about the entry and was told that it was posted on Halloween. Ooh, spooky. Attached to the email, paintwithb@aol.com, which I assume is another joke email. I'm over episode 31 now. The images of what I saw will stick with me for the rest of my life. But I want to do one last hurrah. I will get in contact with Mitchell Wilson again and hopefully set up with the tapes in possession to other Imperial police branches. I'll try to update you guys as soon as I can. I'm sure this won't take long again. Thank you, everyone who still reads this. Well, that was 1999. It was definitely an interesting story. Definitely creepy, I must say. But hey, I guess the best way I could say this one's the most grounded one you'd probably would ever see nowadays. At least it's not one that's, oh hey, realistic blood or ultra realistic blood. Oh hey, a serial killer. Ooh. It's got like a clown looking face or something like that. Definitely scary with supernatural powers. Like no, it's literally just some sick guy who decided to broadcast his sickening things out for people to see. Like honestly, that's kind of around like I don't know, like Ted Bundy or like Jeffrey Dahmer's type of shit right there, or something like the killer clown John Gacy. But with that being said, this is all we have for tonight. Again, thank you for having me on the air. Now, if you excuse me, I gotta go deal with some things that are going on just outside my room. So, yeah, no, I've been hearing a lot of screaming and a lot of banging at my door. So, excuse me, I know where this is going. So, I'll catch you guys for the next time. Anyway, see you around.